Mike Tomlin's contract extension has become a pretty big topic of conversation around the city of Pittsburgh. It's more of a, does he deserve a contract extension? His contract doesn't actually end for another year, but the Steelers, this is about the time that the Steelers typically choose to extend him for another contract. The last time it was weird. They waited until right up until the last year of his contract. Typically they give him 2 years just to, have that wiggle room and see what's going on. 93.7 The Fan has asked this in like a number of ways, and no shots at 93.7 The Fan, excuse me, but they've asked it in more of a, does he deserve a contract extension? Should the Steelers consider moving on from Mike Tomlin, blah 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 type of situation? Do you think that Steelers? I'm going to ask it the way they ask it. Do you think that the Steelers should consider extending Mike Tomlin, or do you think it's time to maybe consider alternative routes?
Yeah, I think they should consider extending him. I don't know. Like, I think this conversation happens in every sport at every level. When you've got a coach who's good, but not, kind of top tier in their sport or in their league. If you don't, for anyone who does not want to extend Mike Tomlin, for anyone who doesn't want him in Pittsburgh past the end of his current contract, you should have to name at least 3 coaches you think that are both obtainable and better than Mike Tomlin. And I don't think you can. I don't think you can name 3 coaches that the Steelers could get that are definitively better than Mike Tomlin. So yeah, extend him. Like honestly, until you find some better alternatives, Mike Tomlin should be your guy for as long as he wants to. This guy's done nothing but win. I get it. Like, I understand the argument about like the lack of playoff wins, especially in recent history, but I don't know. They're plain and simply, there aren't that many coaches who have won Super Bowls like currently in the league. Like, that list is real short. So just judging off that pedigree and that history and where this team is headed, like, he's going to have as good a roster as he's had in I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
Long time. Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, the lack of playoff success is really frustrating, but his teams have not been super talented recently.
No.
So I think you give him a team that can win a Super Bowl and he will be a Super Bowl contender. I think it's that simple.
That's what he did last time. You look at, to touch on your point about Super Bowl winning coaches, because that's what everybody brings up, obviously. Oh, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. How are you going to, he won a Super Bowl with Bill Cowher's team. I get the playoff thing. Like, at this point, we've hit a point where, yeah, teams have been not so successful, but at the same time, like, the 2020 season should have won a playoff game. That, you should have beat the Browns in the first round of the playoffs. That excuse, but at the same, was that him, or was that Marquise Pouncey and his bad snaps, or Ben throwing 4 or 5 interceptions in that game? Like, who's really at blame? Is that Mike Tomlin, or is that an?
He shouldn't have called the interception play. That was
shouldn't have given Ben Roethlisberger the football. Shouldn't even give him the opportunity in a playoff game. That's what shouldn't have happened. There are only a handful of head coaches who have won a Super Bowl, and none of them have won one anytime recently outside of Sean McVay and I guess Doug Peterson, but even he's been a minute here. Obviously, Andy Reid, who is, top of the tier right now. Then there's Bill Belichick, obviously, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, Mike McCarthy, Sean Payton, Doug Peterson, and Sean McVay are the only other coaches that have won a Super Bowl currently on an NFL roster. It's been, Sean Payton won a Super Bowl a decade ago. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl over a decade ago against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Doug Peterson, it's been a minute. John Harbaugh, it's been just about the same time as the rest of them. Pete Carroll, it's been just about the same time as the rest of them. Like, unless you're Andy Reid or Sean McVay, I guess, you're not wins. You just haven't won a Super Bowl. If you're in the NFL, you just haven't won a Super Bowl.
Right. And Sean McVay did it through literally just brute force. Like, the Rams they mortgaged their entire future for that one Super Bowl. And the Steelers aren't. I don't know. You give Mike Tomlin that roster that won that Super Bowl with the Rams, I could guarantee. I bet he could win a Super Bowl with that one.
I bet he'd win. Yeah, it wouldn't even be close. It wouldn't be. And no, Sean McVay is a phenomenal head coach.
Oh yeah,
just like you said, like the Rams aren't going. The Rams could be the worst team in football this season, and it wouldn't surprise anybody. And then they could be the worst team in football for the next 3 seasons, and it wouldn't surprise anybody. They put all
And
their
it's
eggs
by
in one
design.
basket. Yeah,
That was by
exactly.
design. It was
Exactly. They
yeah.
put it all. They said, "Hey, we're going to win a Super Bowl. We don't care what happens after the Super Bowl." The Steelers do not think like that. They never will think like that. If you told Art Rooney, "Hey, we're just going to go all in this season. We're going to win it, and then it's going to be a struggle. We're going to have to rebuild. It's going to take 10 plus years, but we'll figure it out from there." He would look at you and say that, "Well, that's not even. Don't even consider that. I don't even take that off the table immediately because we're not going to be competitive every single season. We're going to win a Super Bowl the right way." And that works out. But just like you said, Mike Tomlin hasn't had a team as good as the one this year appears on paper in quite some time. It's been a minute. He hasn't had an offensive line in 5+ years. He hasn't had a consistent defense in a long time. He's dealt with some really rough coordinators, which I think are partially his fault. But I think at the same time, like the Matt Canada thing, I want to say Art Rooney had a hand in that and making sure that he sticks around because of how cautious they are. Kenny Pickett, he's never had a top 10 pick outside of trading up for Devin Bush. Like it's not like he's working with these phenomenal players. He's got to build everything around him. I mean, look, it's this simple. Mike Tomlin is in Pittsburgh until he doesn't want to be in Pittsburgh anymore. And he's 51 years old, which means that if he wants to be in Pittsburgh for the next 20 years, he's in Pittsburgh for the next 20 years, and you don't got to worry about a thing because they will be competitive. They should win some playoff games. He's got to start winning some playoff games, but you never walk into a season going, "No, Mike Tomlin's going to disappoint this year." That's just, and if you do, you're very pessimistic, and you should probably, just ease up a little bit because the guy is, he's made a lot out of nothing.
Right. And he's done, like, in my opinion, the vast majority of the time, he's gotten the most out of every roster he's had,
Yes.
Like you said, there are some situations where he, lets you down, where the roster like plays down to its competition and underperforms. But like, I don't know, every team has that. Every coach has teams like that. Every team has moments like that. And again, I just go back to, I don't think you're going to get anyone better. Like you can let him walk, and you're not going to find someone better than him, at least in the short term.
No.
So I think to let him go would be really, really short-sighted.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like, just to be realistic, he's not going anywhere. There, right. The conversations of Mike Tomlin's contract extension are not, you haven't performed up to this par. It's like, all right, let's work out a number here that works for both sides because we're trying to win Super Bowls. And I'm sure Mike Tomlin's agent is like, "Oh, well, we want money." And Mike Tomlin, did you ever hear you weren't around for the TJ Watt story, but when TJ Watt signed his massive contract extension, the story was, and he he confirmed it without, being like so dramatic about the situation. But the story is that he like marched into the contract extension, went on forever. And he was like, he wasn't practicing at training camp. He was working on the sides. He like started the hold in thing in the NFL where players show up, but they just don't practice. He was working on the sidelines. And then the story is that eventually it hit a point where, he just like marched into Art Rooney offered him a contract. It was a record breaking deal. His agent was like, "I think we could get more money." And he just marched into Art Rooney's office and he was just like, shook his hand. He's like, "This is a deal. This is great for me. I'm super excited." And then he was like, "All right, I got to go work out." And he just left and he went and hit the weight room because, and I'm sure that Mike Tomlin, if it hits a point, is walking in there and going, "Yeah, I'm not going to like, shut up. I'm going to sign this deal and remain the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Get out of my face, you agent." Because
I mean, he's already
like do their job.
Yeah, but he's already a top 10. At least I looked this up. Is at least as of 2022, he was the like 8th highest paid coach in the league, maybe tied for 7th.
Really?
It's like he's making plenty of money. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think Mike Tomlin's stressing. And he doesn't like leave his house. He doesn't do anything. He wears the same outfit every single day. So he's not out there buying clothes. So he's got no expenses, none. I don't know what he drives, but I know that like, GMs in the past, like coaches in the past that have come in and out of Pittsburgh have like pulled up in like Chevys and Chryslers and, nobody's like pulling in a Maserati or BMW being like, "I'm the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers." Nobody, I'm sure his expenses are very low and he's chilling with whatever paycheck you hand him if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. So long story short, Mike Tomlin, chances are 99% chance he's getting a contract extension. And if you're disappointed about that, I apologize. Sorry to hear.